Good evening, everybody. If you're in North America, that is. Welcome to Ask the Sams Anything About Marriage. Actually, today it's going to look more like Ask the Sam Anything About Marriage. Normally, of course, you would have Slojana beside me because we are marriage mentors, as you see in the caption, and we do everything together. But today, Slojana was invited to be a guest on another live stream. Actually, I don't think it's a live stream, it's actually a closed Zoom group. I don't know if you know this or not, but Slojana was privileged to write a chapter in a book called Choose Love that was published by one of our pastors at Lake Mount Worship Center by the name of Ruth Teagle. And so there's a small group that is meeting around that book. And because she authored one of the chapters, it's her turn to go and talk about her chapter and bless them and so on. So that's why I'm flying solo today. In a way, it worked out very well because this is the Wednesday before Father's Day, especially here in North America. I'm not sure how the rest of the world does it. And so we are going to be focusing on being a father, as you may have seen in the LinkedIn and Facebook posts. So before we do that, we want to ask all of you for a favor who are joining us. If you would please invite your friends to join you, right now and watch with you, and also say hi to us, no matter where you're watching from. Just say hi, and that way we will know that you are actually, watching with us. And we always appreciate our audience, participating and being interactive with us. And also, it lets us know that we're streaming across the channels as we want to. So when you say hi, you will show up in my chat here. And so, yes, Delphina, where is sister? Yeah, she's the guest of honor in a group session today, based on her book that she wrote. She wrote one of the chapters in the book called Choose Love, and so a devotional book. So that's where she is. And so yeah, I know it kind of feels strange for you all to see me by myself, and the caption says marriage mentors. Sam, but we do still function together as a couple. And of course, if you're not familiar with us, we guarantee breakthrough for couples on the brink of breakdown in as little as 10 weeks. And if you'd like to know more about what we do, you just have to go to the website that you see there, the sams.ca, where Jivan Slogan is Sam from Canada. So the sams.ca, pretty easy to remember that way. And if you need help with your marriage, if you're one of those couples that is at that point of, breaking down, but you desperately, want to avoid that as much as possible, then just send us a direct message, especially if you're on LinkedIn or Facebook. That's very easy to do, with the words "no divorce," and we'll be glad to follow up with you. You can also go to our website, and there's an application form that you can fill out, or a contact form where you can that fill out. And also, either way, we will get your request. But that's what we're here for. God gave us a big vision. The vision is to save 50,000 marriages from divorce in the next 5 years, and so that's quite a call. Of course, we are not going to be able to do that on our own. We know that, and so that's why we're actually in the process of training some other couples to also be marriage mentors, using the process that we've been using, that God gave us, that has been producing breakthrough very consistently for those who come to us and follow everything that we advise them, we teach them to do, and when they follow it, they always get results. And not only do they get results, but they maintain the breakthrough well beyond the very short time that they spend with us in the mentorship process. All right, so glad to have you on board. And so again, if you're able Please share with others, invite others that tag them, send them a message, wave to them, drag them in from the other room, whatever it takes. And especially, if there are any fathers, fathers, that's going to be our emphasis. And one of the things that those of you who are regular know about our process, our program rather, is that we love to be interactive. We love it when the audience, you, the viewers, ask questions about what is being shared today, especially, as well as any other questions that you may have about marriage. That's why we call it Ask the Sams Anything About Marriage. And so you can, put those questions in the chat as a comment, or you can actually send us a direct message. Sometimes, when we say ask any question that you may have, it may be of a personal nature. It may include some details that you may not want others to see or know. If that's the case, then please, we honor your privacy. We value confidentiality. And so send us a direct message, and we will use that question, in a subsequent session, without revealing, your identity. We will definitely honor that. All right. So without further ado, we're going to get going with what we have planned for today. And this actually got planned very, very in a quick hurry, as we say. Just last night, I just also got this flash. As you know, we put up a post on Facebook about the theme for today, and our good friend Pastor Joel Arcadipane, we're going to meet in a minute. Put down a great response as to why it is important for us when we say that the best gift a father can give his children, is to love their mother. So let me say that again. The best gift a father can give his children is to love their mother. Okay. So let me just say a little bit about Joel for you first, and then we will bring him on board. All right. And so uh, Joel Arcadipane is the lead pastor of I-61 Church in East Aurora, New York, along with his wife Sandy. They have 4 children together, and they've been married for 21 years. Joel was ordained in 2004 and has previously served as a youth pastor, worship pastor, and associate pastor. He has worked hard on helping to bring the Niagara region together on both sides of the border, with leading a movement in our area called Niagara Now on the American side. And Joel is considered an honorary Canadian, not only because he works with pastors in Canada, but he also has a huge heart for the Maple Leaf. All right, so without further ado, friends, let's bring on board and welcome to Ask the Sams Anything About Marriage, Pastor Joel Arcadipane, the senior pastor of I-61 Church in East Aurora, New York. Not that far from us on the other side of the border, but Joel, unfortunately, we haven't been able to see each other in person for quite some time.
Yeah. I've been missing that. Every time I think about Canada and I think about the people that are family to me over there, it just breaks my heart. I joke around a lot with people about trying to smuggle me in their trunk to get over there, but I definitely miss Canada and hope that at some point soon get back across and give everyone a big hug.
Awesome. Yeah. So in the intro, we said something about Niagara Now, which is a movement that is whose purpose is really to bring the churches in the Niagara region together. We've had a couple of large events in the convention center of Niagara Falls, but it's not just about hosting large events. It's really about making those connections, and one of the important ways in which connections happen is really among the leaders, the pastors, and the leaders of ministries. And so, yeah, Heather, it's so hard to have the borders closed. Yes. But we are now hearing some signs that the border is going to open up maybe over the summer. And so we certainly are looking forward to it. and I know what Joel's going to do the very first day the border opens.
Yeah, I'll be skipping work and heading on over.
Plus, Joel loves Indian food too, so we have one more thing in common. We still need to go back to that Indian restaurant that we went to last time.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah,
the curry with you.
yes. So a few weeks ago, we actually had Joel's wife, Sandy, with us. I think it may be just like 2 weeks ago
Hmm.
that Sandy came on board and talked, incredibly, like I mean, amazingly well about the a book that she wrote, about being a godly wife and a god, in a marriage, and so though if you listen to Sandy that day, then now you're getting to meet the other half. I won't say better half and get into trouble, right?
Yeah, right.
The masculine half half the clan, and you begin to see why these guys have a great marriage, the way they honor each other, love each other, raise their children together. We've been privileged to watch some of that, up front, close up, and so we just hold them in very high esteem, and so we're so glad, Joel, that you could join us. And so let's just get right into our topic, and I'm just going to turn you loose to share from your heart about this saying, that is the focus of today's theme, that the greatest gift a father can give his children is to love their mother. So take it away and share what you have in your heart. And friends, if you have any questions about what Pastor Joel is saying, just put them in as a comment. It'll show up on our chat, and then I'll be glad to ask them on your behalf to him. Okay, so thank you, Joel. Go for it.
Okay, well, I was raised in a pastor's home with a father who really trained me to honor women, hold doors open, do those things, do the very simple things. That it's not always about the big things. And, when I get married, I come to realize just how important the simple things really are. Sometimes when I try to do a grand gesture for my wife, I realize that it doesn't matter her as much as doing the dishes, as much as tidying up or helping her do some things that she needs done. And as I read Ephesians 5, where it talks about how husbands are to love their wives as Christ loves the church, it really speaks heavily to me of a sacrificial love.
Hmm.
It's easy as men to just want or demand, this is what I want from my wife, and this is what she should be giving me as a good, godly wife, without understanding that the responsibility starts with us. It starts with us to be a leader in our home by how we serve our wife. And as we serve our wife, we set the standard for our children. We set the standard for those watching our lives who can look in and say, so that's how it's done. I want my boys to look at me and watch what I'm doing and see how I serve my wife and I lay down my life for her as Christ did for me and for the church. That is my job, is to be that way towards her. And so I also, on the same respect, want my daughter to be watching me. I have three boys and a daughter. I want my daughter to be raised in a way that when she is looking for a man to come alongside of her, that the standard that is set should be me. It should be the way that I serve my wife. It should be the way that I love her. It should be the way that when I don't want to do something for her and I do it with a smile on my face, that she sees that she should expect to have a man who's long suffering for her, a man who will serve and lay down not just his life, because so many of us as men, as husbands, we would say, oh, I'll stand in front of a bullet for you. But how many of you would die for your wife daily? How many of you would live for your wife daily? How many of you, would go the extra mile to make sure that her life is easier? And not just with for my wife, her thing was, I'm going to take care of the home and she's really great at it. But, for her, for me to go home and after a long day of work, instead of putting my feet up and saying, serve me, for me to come home and do the dishes for her and help her with the laundry and help get the kids in order and take them to sports. that exemplifies to her that I love her. But it also shows my kids what they should be able to expect and how they should be living in the future. And, we live in a world that really has tried to cut down masculinity, a godly masculinity. But I believe as men, it is our responsibility to find out what Scripture says and to begin to live it and begin to walk it.
Hmm. Joel, when you responded to the post that I had on Facebook, like you said something about, and if our children don't get that at home, like from their father, in this case, but I think you're specifically talking about your daughter. If she doesn't get that example from her father, she's going to get it from somebody else, and that somebody else, maybe somebody that's not a great model. It could be somebody that is popular. In we used to say television, but I don't think everybody watches television anymore. But somebody in social media, or on some something on YouTube that they watch, and so it is very important that you as the father, and I as the father. I mean, our children are all grown, and like two of them are out of the house already. But when we had that opportunity, it was really incumbent upon me to show them how much I valued Solojana, as my wife, and loved on her, that they were able to actually see it, and so we didn't have to actually sit down and tell them this is how you should treat, your spouse. It's just like by osmosis. That's the example that they have, and that's the example that they will then set when they get to that stage. That's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it. I mean, I've observed it with you guys, and it's incredible to see how you and Salojana interact. You guys are incredible examples of really what true love looks like in the eyes from the Lord to each other. That to me is an incredible example, and so my wife and I have been able to take that into our lives as well. And I don't want, as a pastor, it's easy. I could get so caught up in ministry. I get so caught up in doing things for other people. I get so caught up, in the past, it was easy to get caught up in serving other people, even other women in the congregation. And I don't mean that one-on-one. I just mean in the sense of, they needed to be heard. They needed, to come over and talk to my wife and I. And it's so easy to end up putting someone else on a pedestal, put another person, another family, another situation. And what your kids grow up learning is that your wife is important when she's important, but everything else comes before her then. And to me, my wife is my most important ministry. She is my primary ministry. When my kids grow up and they form their own families, my wife and I will always be there for them. But when I'm an empty nester, my wife is what I have left with me. And if I don't invest in my marriage now, I mean, I could use every excuse in the book. Oh, we're busy. We got kids. We got this. We got that. But if I don't take the time to love her now, and I think, when my kids are gone, we'll take the time to do that, that's too late. You've already set a foundation in the home of a very unstable structure. And so I think it's important to take that time now for my kids and for my wife's sake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of you are watching know that Slojan and I were marriage mentors, and one of the category of couples that come to us for marriage mentorship are people who've been married for like 2 decades or longer, and so many of them, have raised their children, and that's exactly what happens, Joel, is that they're so focused on serving the children that they forgot to serve each other. They forgot to be Christ to each other. And now all of a sudden, on the one hand, they feel like strangers because, they don't really know each other because they devoted all their time to the children, taking them all over the place, and then getting tired at the end of the day and not having enough time for each other. It's also a very poor example, to set, for your children, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Say a little bit about the kind of security that children gain when they see, like the father loving on their mother, and yeah, the impact of that upon them.
Oh man, I gotta tell you, it's so funny because I'll walk up to my wife, I'll put my arms around her, I'll give her a kiss on the lips or on the cheek, or in front of my kids, I'm like, "Your mom is really beautiful." Or I'll ask them, I'll be like, who is the most beautiful woman in the world? And I'll look at them, and I'll say, "It's your mom, right?" Of course, every time they'll be like, "Dad," but the funny thing is, they actually turn around and they're like, "It is mom." And then I'll say, "Why is it mom?" That's one thing that we actually do as a family pretty regularly is we sit down, and especially when there's chaos in the home or when there's a fight between kids, or even just when we feel like we need a change of atmosphere, we'll sit down and we'll say, let's sit down, and every single person has to name 3 things at least that you like about every single person in this family.
Hmm.
And the funny thing is, when it comes to mom, it's things like she cooks the most amazing stuff, and she takes care of me, and I know she loves me deeply, things like that. And so it's so easy to look at those simple things, and as a dad or even as a mom, and say, "Oh, I'm being taken advantage, or taken advantage of, or just ignored, or whatever." But in those moments, you hear their heart, and you realize it really is the simple things that mean that much to them. And for me, when I not only exemplify that, but that's the forefront. Your mom is amazing because, and I name those in front of the kids. It becomes a vocabulary in the home by which they address their mom, as opposed to calling her names or thinking it's okay to say things to her the wrong way, or just to be a jerk to her. That they see dad always honoring mom. My wife and I never argue in front of the kids. I never put her down. I never disagree with her in front of the kids. It's important that they see that I honor their mom in front of them. And I think that's such an important strategy. So they're hearing vocabulary that's life giving, but they're also seeing honor in action.
Hmm. And that is so important, Joel. And yet, like, we hear horror stories of how couples actually like still fight in front of their children.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we have to tell people is, like, like, guys, whenever you fight, you are raising the insecurity level of your children.
Yes.
Yeah, because your children may not verbalize it, but one of the greatest fears that children have, that they carry with them, is that their parents are not going to be together.
Yep.
The parents will be divorced. And of course, sadly, like a very high percentage of marriages have been ending up in divorce. Now, latest statistics are saying that that trend is actually being reversed.
Oh,
But yeah, but really, like, the signs of that, are all around us. And one of the saddest things that happens is when a family, a marriage breaks up, children quite often end up blaming themselves for it. If
right.
only I had done this, if only I had behaved better, all those kind of things. And so you need to put yourself in a place, where the children are secure. And that's what I always, used to. Well, we still tell couples when they come to us with children, like do some hanky panky stuff in front of your kids.
Yeah.
I mean, they may say, "Go get a room," but but at the same time, deep down, they're saying, "Hey, they're going to be together. Look how they love on each other."
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So, so it actually gives the children security when the father, loves, not just loves his wife, but displays that in very concrete ways. And then one of the things that you said is about not arguing. Another situation, which I'm sure you encountered as well, because you got 4 children. When there's more than one child, this tends to happen more. Is children love to play one parent against the other. Yeah, I have a sense that happened to you, right?
Hey.
So talk a little bit about how, in situations like that, you can let your children know that mom, like what mom says, is just as valid as what dad would say, and that they cannot play that game. How do you guys make sure that game doesn't get played?
Well, a lot of times the first thing that we do when a decision is made is, you know, I will go to my wife and I'll ask her, did you already answer this question? Um, we're not always able to do that, especially if we're not home together. But generally speaking, at some point we're asking, hey, this decision was made. Did you already give an answer? Or, you know, we have an understanding between each other that it's okay to approach the other person to say, you know, not in front of the kids, but hey, this is what my decision was here. And without fail, when my kids do that, even if I disagree with my wife, you know, my point is to sit them down and say, listen, what your mom said here goes. Whether or not I agree with her is not the point, and I do agree with her because I'm going to back her up.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't necessarily say whether I agree with her or not. I'll just say I'm backing your mom up. And if I have to have a disagreement, then we go behind closed doors, and I'll ask her, well, why was that decision made? Yeah. You know, and then when she explains it, probably 99% of the time, it's like, oh, yeah, not a big deal. I don't really care. You know, that's fine. I'm good. You know, the small percentage of the time where I'm saying, you know, well, I have a different opinion on this, or she'll say the same to me, we do it behind closed doors. And we don't make decisions generally without being in agreement. So, you know, we won't do that. She'll say, go ask your dad, and I'll say, go ask your mom. And if she'll come to me and say, I really don't care, then I'll just say, well, this is what it is. But I think it is important for my kids to know that you don't get to do that. And if they're caught doing that, then there is a discipline. You know, regardless of how severe or not severe it is, there tends to be a discipline in our home, because I want to train them that it isn't okay. Because if they'll do that to her here, they'll do it to someone else in authority somewhere else. And they learn a pattern of behavior in their life of being manipulative, which gives a gateway to the enemy to come in and play and wreak havoc in their life. It creates kind of an instability in their life, because they're always pitting people against each other. And so we're trying hard to do that. And there are definitely times where we don't really get on that same page, and that's natural. But you know, when those things happen, when my kids are coming up and my wife has this look on her face, I don't know if any of you have ever had that as husbands. You get that look that she doesn't have to say a word. You're instantly like, okay, something's wrong here. I instantly will ask them, what did your mom say? Well, mom said this. Well, then why are you asking me? Why are you coming to me if your mother already gave you that answer? Well, I was kind of hoping, no, that's not okay. You know, and then it goes to, you need to honor your mom. Your mom is the authority in this home, along with me. And if your mom gave you an answer, that's it. You know, if your mom needed to discuss it with me, she would. But I trust that she's making a wise decision here, and that's it. You know, and that's the end of the story. So we tend to back each other up with it, and it serves well. I would have to say over the years, I have a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, 12-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So in the last 5 years or so, it's really cut down a lot. But now what I'm finding is when they want to go to a friend's house, they'll ask mom. They'll ask mom, and you know, she's usually pretty cool about it. Like, yeah, go have fun. And then I'll come up to her and say, wait a minute, what about this? And she'll go, oh my goodness, wait a minute. So that's the other side of the coin, is when a decision has been made and we both talk and we're going to reverse course, we make it a point that the parent who made the decision is the one who changes the decision. That way I'm not instilling in them that I somehow will overrule her because they view me as the authority in the home. And, you know, my wife will tell them, your dad's the head of our home. But that doesn't give me the right to overrule her in front of them and to degrade her and put her into a place where when I'm not home, they will dishonor her. So I think it's important that honor is always the case.
Yeah.
So let's hear.
So we have a comment from Heather, who's watching us on Facebook. A single mom of 4 kids. Only my older 2 remember me as a wife. The younger 2 don't remember me married. It's been hard on them. There's been a real lack of honor.
Yeah.
And Heather, I think what you're trying to say is it's because they didn't really see, you being honored, by a father, and so it affects us in so many ways that we actually may not even know.
Can I speak? Is that okay to speak to that for a minute?
Yeah, definitely, please.
Okay, so I was raised in that situation. My father was a pastor, but was killed in an automobile accident when I was 13. one of my brothers was also killed in that car accident. I was in it. My whole family was in it. But I was raised in a home where multiple kids. I think at least 3, if not 4 of them really did not remember my father very well. And my mom paid for it pretty heavily. What I did as an older son is I did my best to back her up. But I will tell you, the thing that turned the tide the most was having people in our lives. For me, it was a youth pastor who was willing to take me out for coffee and sit down and hear me out. And he never yelled at me, but what he would tell me is, hey, you need to cut your mom a break. She's doing the best she can. She's a great mom. And of course, when he would say that, something in my heart began to break because I realized she is a great mom. She's doing the best she can. And I need to help her out. I need to be better with my attitude. And so I think it's important to help surround your kids with people, not that are looking to be the dad and replace that, because that's never something that really will be there. But really to have people that can surround your life, who can take them out for coffee, who can become mentors for them, and who can back you up. And so when situations are going difficult, it's not a threat to say, well, if you don't obey, I'm calling this person. It's, hey, why don't you call this person and go talk to them and see what their opinion is on this, so that maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. But I think getting people involved who have wisdom and who can love and care for them, I think is it helped me immensely. I am where I am today because of that youth pastor. He is with the Lord now, but I will tell you that made a major difference in my family. And I unfortunately, my mom with some of the younger siblings had a very difficult road for several years. She ended up remarried, and that my stepdad really helped her out a lot at that point. And at that point, those kids who didn't remember my dad, it wasn't difficult for them to see him more as a father because they didn't know a father before then. So
That's awesome. Joel, I'm just going to maybe shift to actually a verse from the Bible.
mhm.
Kind of an odd passage to find this verse. It's Proverbs 31, on 10 onwards. We always talk about that as being the virtuous wife, or the Proverbs 31, wife, woman, etc. But at the very end of that passage, it talks about how, I'm just going to see if I actually wrote it down here. Her children stand and bless her.
Mhm.
Then her husband also praises her. This is the New Living Translation. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all.
Mhm.
And again, if you go back to the previous verses, you realize that this wife, this woman that is talked about, this mother, she was not just like a manager of the household. Like, she was a businesswoman. She was trading. And she was very industrious. Making coats for the children, all those kind of things, for the family, and so on. But there was also this whole thing about the praise in public. I think this is the thing that really stood out for me.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times, like, well, I know that he loves me, um, but I never hear anything. Okay, and we specifically want to address this to the fathers, the husbands,
Yeah.
who are watching this either live with us, or you're watching the recording. That, like, this is something that is incredibly important. And even if your wife's love language is not words of affirmation, yeah, this is a whole different principle, and,
Mhm.
and it goes the other way as well. Okay, but you really, really need to make an attempt, that like, that they're not always just finding fault. Well, like, with something that that your wife cooked, or the way the house is kept, or whatever. And all of us can nitpick and find fault, but really, to like, what you talked about earlier, Joel. About who's the most beautiful woman in the world, like that kind of stuff, that kind of honor, but that praising is very, very important, because then their children also carry that with them as they grow older and into their marriages and relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I model that also at our church, um, to the point where I think some of our people get a little annoyed at times. I have no issue ever in public addressing my wife and letting people know how much I love her and how beautiful she is and how smart and how talented and all of those things. Because I think it's important that it's in front of the kids for sure, but I think it's important that as a pastor I do that because the people in the church are, I guess you can consider them my kids. And I think it's important that they learn that language. First of all, it helps them to honor her.
Mhm.
It helps them to honor each other. And I think to create healthier marriages in the society we live in, we need to model healthy marriages. It is okay after 20 years to be more in love with my wife today than I was when I met her, more than when I married her. And so it's important that I express that. And I do that at home, I do that in private. But I think if I get the chance to do it in public, and I know my wife is very private, if you know her, she doesn't like that stuff, but she'll take it because she realizes that I'm just going to do it anyways because I love her. But I think also because I think she understands how important it is that people see that. Marriage is a reflection of our relationship with Jesus, but it should also be a reflection to the world of what Jesus looks like to those who don't believe. And I think if we can model being in love, and that doesn't mean we're never going to disagree.
Yeah.
It just means that despite our disagreements, I still love her more today than I did yesterday. Just the same way I love Jesus more today than I loved yesterday.
Hmm.
And I think it's important that if we can learn to verbalize that, I hear people all the time tell me, I praise in my heart. And I addressed this past Sunday. Praise, that's not praise. Praise is actual verbal enunciation. It's something that comes out of your mouth. It is not something that stays with inside. And so if all I did was I just expected my wife to know that I loved her because that I cleaned the house or I smiled at her or gave her a kiss on the cheek, but never said anything, then then the question is, do I really love her? Am I really praising her? Am I really in that place? So I think they all go hand in hand and they go together. And I love doing it. I think it's important. And I do it in the most random times, in the most random places. And, I do it in front of anybody, her coworkers, wherever. I'll be like, isn't she beautiful? And of course, she'll be like, oh, why are you saying that? But I'm saying it because you look stunning tonight.
Yeah.
You look beautiful. You look at how talented you are. You just put together this entire computer program and my mind is spinning. And you did it in 5 minutes. You're amazing. Taking any opportunity to praise her, I think, is a good example to set for my kids and for anyone else who watches my life.
Mhm. Yeah, the I just got a little flash here. In that same passage, it also says earlier, her husband trusts her.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways that the example that you gave of trusting her judgment, like a
Yeah.
decision that she made, like that's what the children see. That,
Mm-hmm.
that dad trusts mom to make the decisions, and he's not going to overrule her, certainly not in front of us. And
Mm-hmm.
so, again, which is a part of honor. Yeah, I think that's maybe a good word to really sum up, the way that we're treating our wives.
Right.
But friends, this is I'll tell you something. When people get into trouble in their marriage later on in life, or even as individuals, and you go and get some kind of counseling or inner healing ministry, whatever, what always shows up is something that happened in your childhood. Like Sloja and I, at a certain stage in ministry, we did a lot of inner healing ministry, souls of ministry. And, who do you think are the number one people that everyone had to forgive the most?
Yep.
Is their parents. Okay.
Yep.
And so the impact that we have on the coming generation, on the children, is like incredible. We don't even fully understand that and realize it. And so we really want to encourage, all of you parents to keep this in mind, and especially fathers, those who are married and fathers, whether your children are still at home, that's very important. But even when your children are not at home,
Right.
how do you speak about your wife to your child? When you get on the phone with them, or in some kind of a public occasion, family gathering, or whatever. Like all of these things, you need to be very, very careful. like one of the things that soldier and I were talking about the other day, and I can't remember who we were talking to, but it was about, when you take the words of scripture verses like love one another as I have loved you, they will know that you are my disciples by the way you love one another. Let your talk be wholesome. All these things, like where's the first place that we put those into action is in the home.
Yeah.
And so, on the one hand, we talk about, we must love our Muslim neighbor, the person that disagrees with us, like all the kind of stuff. But as husband and wives, if we do this right, and especially with the way we treat our children as well, or
Mhm.
treat as husbands, our wives in front of our children, whether it's at home or even in a public place, you take them for like a recreational activity or something, like that actually is a great witness to who you are as a follower of Jesus, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take any opportunity. We're never guaranteed tomorrow. I would want to know that if, God forbid, something ever like what happened with my father, you know, um, where someone goes early, you'd want to know that you took every opportunity to honor and love and, you know, take those opportunities. For me, walking into a mall, hold hands. Oh, I'm not a kid anymore. You don't need to be a kid to hold your wife's hand. You just need to be a man. Um, she you're walking in the mall and she looks pretty, so you lean over and give her a kiss. That's not inappropriate PDA. I think people should watch couples healthily kiss instead of mauling each other in the mall. Like just setting that example, hearing it, living it, being it, as you just said, Jiva. I mean, what the world really needs is people who don't just profess to be Christians and then go home and blast each other.
Hmm.
They need people who go home, and the word that comes to mind is integrity. You're doing things behind the scenes that no one sees the same way you do them in front of people that do see it. And I think you set that standard behind the scenes, it will naturally come out in public. And I will tell you, it doesn't mean that my wife and I don't have intense moments of Christian fellowship. And by that I mean disagreements, arguments, fights. It's about learning how to fight right. It's about learning how to honor even despite that, and especially in front of my kids. And the goal is that she should know that I love her so much that I'm big enough as a man that I can, not that I can take it, but that I can hear her, and that I can still honor and still love her and still desire her more through all of those processes. Um, I think that the health, they did a scientific study and they found that the most important role in a child's life was the father. And they found that when fathers were missing out of a home, that chaos ensued. They found that in the United States, this study was done, I think, 10 or 15 years ago. They found that in urban centers, where there was a rampant lack of fatherlessness, children where there was gangs and all these violence and where there was so much trouble, they found that there was 90% fatherless rate. Fathers are so important. You men that are watching, your life, your example, and who you are to your wife matters. It matters today, it matters tomorrow. And you may say, well, I've been a really bad example. I've messed up a ton. So what you need to do today is fall on your knees and repent to the Lord and say, God, I'm sorry. And then the very next thing you need to do is walk to wherever your wife is, give her a hug, a kiss, and say, I'm sorry for the way I've treated you. I'm turning this around and I will honor you from this day forward. And I think it's important that you do that and then you actually follow it through with actions. I think what could even be more powerful for children is when they watch you as a father turn it around, and they begin to see how it's done right and how you repented. And then you bring your kids around and say, I'm sorry for the way I've treated mommy. I was wrong. I can be a big enough man to admit it. I was wrong. The way I treated her was wrong. I want you from now on to follow my example in honoring your mom. This is what she deserves. This is who she is, and we're going to treat her that way. And I won't tolerate anything less. We're going to honor her in this home.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. What you said a while ago reminded me of This actually happened in one of the prisons, in America. I'm not sure exactly where the warden came up with the idea that on Mother's Day, they would make this was before the cell phones, that kind of stuff, a phone available for all prisoners to call their mom and wish them Happy Mother's Day, and the lineup was so long it blew them away. And of course, a few weeks later comes Father's Day, so they do the exact same thing and they announce, "Hey, we got the same thing set up for you guys. Just bring your father's phone number and call." And hardly anybody showed up.
Yeah.
Because the relationship with the father was not there, or the father was not there, when they were being raised, or what the father did was not like something that they were impacted by in a positive way. And
Right.
so, yeah, the role the father plays is extremely important. And again, like, this is not a judgment
Right.
against anybody, who was raised in a single parent home, because, like, in your case, your father's death, and
Right.
Heather talking about, where there was a divorce. And so I think we need to, without any judgment, we just need to say, hey, you know what, like, if you choose to be a father,
Right.
then you need to make sure that you're honoring your wife, that you're not only loving her, but also expressing that love outwardly, openly, as much as possible, because that is the greatest gift that
Yeah.
you can give your children. And they may not be able to articulate that for you at that point, but years down the road, you will hear them say, thank you, Dad, for the way that you treated Mom, because that's taught me how to treat my wife, or how I expect my husband to treat me. And I
Hmm.
don't put up with stuff, because I know this is what a godly man, a godly father, a godly husband has to do, or needs to do. All right. So this is amazing. Like, if I hadn't looked at the clock, I wouldn't have realized that we've been on for over 45 minutes already. And so, so this has been great. I want to thank um, uh, Pastor Joel Arcadipane for joining us today. And if you need to want to connect with Pastor Joel, then here's the email that's showing up on the screen right now: I61ministries at yahoo.com. I think Sandy gave us the same email as well the
Yeah.
last time. Yeah. All right. And so yeah, friends, and if you're in the New York area, New York in the East Aurora area, then I61 Church is a great church to connect with. We've been there a number of times, and always a blessing for us to be there, even when we're invited to go and do something that will bless the congregation. And so yeah, thanks once again, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Heather and Delphina. I'm just naming the people that said something in the chat: Sean, Cheryl. I know there's a few others that came and went here and there. So we want to express our appreciation. And friends, if you're new to this live stream today, we do this every Wednesday night from 7 to 7:45 p.m. Eastern time zone. And so normally you would have my wife Slojana here with me, along with, from time to time, we would bring a special guest, like we did with Pastor Joel today. And as marriage mentors, we guarantee breakthrough. We guarantee breakthrough or your money back for couples on the brink of breakdown. And we've seen that happen in as little as 10 weeks. All right. And if you'd like to know more about what we do, just go to the SAMS.ca, the SAMS from Canada, SAMS.ca. And if you need help with your marriage, then just send us a direct message with the words "no divorce," and we'll follow up with you. Or, you may not be in that place, but you may know somebody, who needs to get some help with their marriage. I connected with a Facebook group called the Marriage Support Group, and I'm just like so saddened by the way a lot of marriages are in difficulty these days. And like what the Lord basically wants us to tell you is that there's hope for you, there's help for you, and there's healing. that is available, that he wants to do. All right. So as we always do, we're going to ask Pastor Joel today to send us off with a prayer and a blessing for families and especially for fathers. Go for it, Joel.
Okay. Lord, I thank you tonight for the fathers that are in this group. I pray for a generation of men to stand up and to put their hands in the air and say, I will be that man. I will be a father who loves his wife so that his kids, so that his family, so that the people around him can see Jesus in it. Lord, I pray that you would begin a reversal in trend, that, Lord, as a church, we would be people that love you and honor each other in such a way, Lord, that when the world looks at us, they see Jesus in it. They say, I want that. I've been a part of a lot of dysfunction, but I see Jesus in it. I see the love of God. I see the heart of God in this, in the way you treat each other. So I pray that you would give us the strength tonight to do that. And for those of us tonight who are stubborn or having a difficult time letting go, but you don't know what she did, you don't know what she said, Lord, I pray tonight that you would bring conviction to our hearts and softness and tenderness, Lord, that we could let go. And Lord, that we could love our wives as you love the church. And I thank you for that tonight. I just bless every person that's watching, both in the United States and Canada. And Lord, I even pray a special prayer over Canada. We bless Canada tonight from the United States. We send blessing and favor to our neighbors to the north. And so we thank you for that. And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious unto you and grant you his peace. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen.
Awesome. Thank you very much again, Joel, for joining us. And
Yeah.
we'll definitely have you back another time. So thanks, everybody, once again for connecting with us today. We hope that we will see you in the coming weeks as well. Please spread the word. Um, Facebook being what it is, we were not always able to have our posts seen by everybody. And so we rely heavily on you, the viewers, who watch and are blessed by it, to share with others. So please do. We'll see you then. Have an awesome week. God bless.